I'm currently 22 years old, and that makes me the youngest speaker at the event this year. And the reason I bring this up is not because you may be looking at me like I'm a baby, but it's because I feel it's necessary to thank the Energy Disruptors team for making room for young people's voices when we discuss the global sustainable transition. We need more young people at the decision-making table to voice innovative solutions for overcoming our fast-approaching climate goals. Not only is it our future that we are fighting for, but where young people may lack decades of experience in their field, they bring creative solutions that can often be overlooked by someone who's become comfortable with the status quo. That is why intergenerational collaboration holds so much value when we discuss the fast-approaching climate goals that we've set out for ourselves. And the topic of collaboration actually feeds quite nicely into my presentation today, which I've aptly titled Democratizing Impact Finance Through Crowdlending. But let's get into what that really means. So, for starters, investing can be scary, intimidating, confusing. I know when I started investing, I was quite intimidated. This was back in university. I had a couple $100 saved up on my student budget. And I had recently heard about this kind of emerging terminology, which, of course, after this conference, we know that the term ESG is definitely here to stay. I think most of the presentations talked about it over the last few days. But I had just heard about it, and it sounded perfect. I could align my investments with my values. So I went online. I looked for the first ESG ETF, or ESG fund I could find, and invested a couple $100 in. Said great, and went on with my day. Not too long after that, I started to get curious and wanted to learn more about where my funds were going. So I looked into the holdings of the ETF. And I found it was made up of a bunch of companies such as Google, Microsoft, Disney. Which said, great, OK. I don't really know how focused on ESG factors these companies are, but I'll take it. I believe you. But then I looked a little bit further. And do you know what I found? I found that Coca-Cola Company and PepsiCo made up a significant portion of the holdings. These are the two companies that were the top two world's largest corporate plastic polluters in 2021, as well as Coca-Cola taking the top step for the previous 4 years. Now, understandably, I was apoplectic. A quick side note, I'm relatively new to TED Talk style presentations, but I was told multiple times that I should use interesting adjectives. So I hope that one makes it a little bit spicier. But seriously, I was apoplectic. I'd invested my money into a bunch of companies that didn't really align with my values, or I didn't support at all. And on top of that, I didn't know the impact my dollar was having. So, enter crowdlending. It's a lot less complex. And it's the financing model that I've been working on at Goparity Canada for the past 2 years. The concept is simple. You take a large number of investors, businesses, or individuals, small contributions, and group those into a single large contribution of capital. You then take that capital and use it to fund a project or a borrower that repays over time plus interest. You see, we live in a time where advancing technology makes it easier than ever before to make deals with a large number of stakeholders. Things like contracts, due diligence, communications can all take place online and remotely. Crowdlending can effectively take out the financial institution middleman, reducing the cost of capital and lowering the time to money for businesses that need financing. And the outcome? Well, crowd lending can be used to target the underserved market of sustainable SMEs. SMEs that banks might not get excited about financing because the opportunity is outweighed by operating expenses. And you might ask, what about the impact? Well, because each investor is investing their money into a single business or project, it's very easy to measure the impact that each and every dollar is having, whether that's CO2 emissions offset, whether it's jobs created, people impacted. The list keeps going on. And beyond that, for the business, it's an exciting opportunity for them to make it known of all the exciting new projects they need financing for, and show those to this mission-driven crowd, this crowd of impact investors. Let's take Congelagos, for example. They're a fish processing leader that has based their business off the fundamental idea that fishing is only sustainable if it is sustainable for everyone. That includes fishermen, customers, the sea, and the company. They want to create a 360-degree sustainability model for the fishing market. And to do so, they focus on undervalued, abundant species, sustainably sourced, minimizing waste, and acting as an always-ready buyer of Portuguese fish. Most recently, they wanted to decarbonize their brand new processing facility that you can see in the pictures. To do so, they were going to install 913 kilowatts of rooftop solar PV to offset about 35% of their cold storage and processing infrastructure. Back in about April of this year, they approached Goparity because they wanted to use crowd lending to raise the capital. And we learned there are 3 reasons why they did this. First, time to money. The second, flexibility. And the third was awareness. You see, at this time, much of the world, and especially Europe, were being faced, and still are being faced, with some of the highest energy prices in recent years. This is, of course, due to the ongoing war in Ukraine and the dependence that much of the world has had on Russian energy generation. And for Congelagos, who had just begun operations on their 5,400-ton cold storage facility, as well as highly automated processing lines, it was crucial for them to find a more cost-effective and efficient way of sourcing energy. They didn't have time to go through the bureaucratic and often delaying process of traditional financing options. Beyond this, they needed flexibility because they had an ongoing investment round going on, so they needed to be able to change terms up until issuing the debt. And beyond that, they believed they could create significant awareness about what they were doing and what they believed in through the multiple campaigns. Within 2 weeks, Congelagos was able to raise their first installment of capital to purchase the equipment required for the project. Flexibility concerns were overcome by allowing them to increase their loan amount halfway through raising the money. And beyond that, they did create significant awareness through news, articles, interviews, and social media. And my personal favorite is they even had a famous tech review YouTuber from Portugal come out and review their project. And it actually brought a lot of visibility to an entirely new market, a consumer lens, someone who would likely never care about a fish processing facility. With crowd lending, they were able to raise 500,000 euros, or about 650,000 Canadian dollars, which was used to complete the 913 kilowatt solar facility that is now on their roof. In terms of impact, they're now avoiding 202 tons of CO2 each year, and producing 1,500 megawatt hours of clean energy. They are now less dependent on the price fluctuating grid, and at today's prices, it's saving them about 280,000 euros annually. Beyond that, this was only made possible by over 3,000 impact-driven investors that are now following along and supporting as stakeholders. At the end of the day, we still have a big problem. We've known for years that from the UN's Commission of Trade and Development that we need about $5 to $7 trillion invested into the Sustainable Development Goals annually if we're going to meet them. This means directing capital towards emerging markets across all sectors, into sustainable energy, into business and transition, into green land use, into the blue economy, and into social initiatives. The good news is, the public has never been so supportive of social and environmental development, with an overwhelming number of young people wanting to take action and contribute to our sustainable transition. And it's playing a larger role in their investment decisions than any other generation, with 71% of Canadians between 18 and 34 saying that ESG factors play an important role on their investment decisions. And we can talk about numbers all we want, and I like numbers, but one of the most compelling arguments that I have is this. Instagram. Have you ever scrolled through the average 20-something-year-old's Instagram feed? Well, it's filled with stories after story of the latest climate disaster, whether it's floods taking up much of a country or much of countries, or it's heat waves flying across continents and leading to forest fires, taking out towns and civilizations. The list goes on, and it's what we're scrolling through every single day. And I hate to admit it, but even multiple hours a day. And it leaves imprints. And so, yeah, I can say that young people are ready to take action. They want to do something about all this. And the reason is because growing up, we've had more visibility on the state of our planet than any other generation. So I asked the question, how can we direct more capital towards our global goals? Well, I think the answer is we harness the power of the crowd. Canadians that care, retail investors, including young people, but including everyone who wants to take action, who are ready to contribute. The group of people that make up about 75% of Canada's private wealth, about $6 trillion. But they're struggling to find meaningful ways to support, ways that align with their goals. Advancing technology allows us to use crowd lending more efficiently than ever, lowering the cost of capital for businesses that need financing. So let's work together to make the world a better place by democratizing impact finance through crowd lending. Thank you, everyone. If you want to learn more, please check out our website or come find me. I'll be here for the rest of the day, and I would love to chat with any of you. Thank you.